Hello, my loves. We're going to talk about Life Path 8 today. Let me start with this disclaimer. I don't know what other numerologists say about numbers. Quite frankly, I don't care, okay? You don't have to listen to me, but I assure you that I dig deep. I pay very close attention. This is how I formulated my number system, okay? So when I talk to you about Life Path 8, this is my own interpretation. This is my own perspective. As are all interpretations, numerology-based, astrology-based, tarot-based. It's all interpretation, okay? How do you think tarot was created? It started with a simple deck of cards and a practitioner, okay? So you guys need to start understanding these are all for energy, meaning systems created from the mind. Now, when it comes to 8, my love, 8 is such a profound number and it has such a wide scope. Okay, so I'm just going to give some insight about it. And if you get lost, that's okay. Okay, I'm going to try not to go too deep. I want to try and keep this simple so as many people can understand it as possible. But 8 is a profoundly important number, spiritually speaking. Okay, so when you are a Life Path 8, things are going to happen from childhood that don't seem fair, that seem unjust. But what's actually happening is the divine scales, the cosmic scales of justice are actually balancing themselves out, okay? Balancing certain energies based on past life experiences, based on seeds planted by you previously or experiences had by you previously. Alternatively, you may also be facing karma of the spirit that actually has nothing to do with your own personal actions. But you are being, as are all of us, used by a vessel, by a sovereign spirit, by a sovereign entity, by a sovereign energetic being that influences, that leads us. Okay, that is what a spirit does. It is a guiding force in the act of ascension and descension. That's why there's collectives. That's why there's groups that can all relate to the same things because they all relate to the same spirit. So when we face karma of the spirit, this is what it means. It means that not only are we being directed by this energy, we must also walk the same karmic path as these energies. This is why when you do certain inner work and you gain insight and you gain greater awareness of self, and you're honest with yourself about what you've been through and you can look at your life objectively, then you can start to hone in. And I teach about this in my book. I teach about this on my channel. When you want to understand the spirit you're being led by, your name meaning holds great importance. Okay, this is a lot of times why transgender or non-binary beings relate to both genders. A lot of times it's because their soul is more resonating with a certain energy, feminine or masculine, and their spirit is actually resonating with the opposite, okay? So this manifests physically, mentally for these people, for these beings, okay? It's a real thing, okay? Let's say, for example, you hold a feminine energy, but your name is masculine. Oftentimes that will manifest as you being non-binary. And when I talk about the sins of the spirit or the karma of the spirit that we have to endure, this is an example of that, okay? But it goes deeper, okay? Pay attention to your name meaning, but also research myths that align with your life and your story. It is wild how accurate and how exact it can be, okay? Oftentimes it'll be reversed roles, however, because that is the nature of karma, right? What these sovereign beings have done, it is now their turn to endure. Does that make sense? Now let's get more into the actual traits and so on and so forth of Life Path 8. Sorry, but this is such an important aspect of spirituality from my perspective, okay? So I just need to share it because it directly correlates with the concept of divine justice. This is how it works, you guys, and you don't have to agree with me, but every time I've tested it, I don't miss. A brief example, okay, just to keep it brief. My best friend was murdered. She had 3 children, okay? She was murdered by her lover. There is a myth, Clytemnestra, okay, had 3 children. But in this myth, Clytemnestra killed her lover. Do you see how the roles reverse? So this murder of my best friend had nothing to do with what she had done. It wasn't her own personal karma. It was the karma of the spirit she was being led by. Does it make sense? Now let's get into Life Path 8. So Life Path 8s can be incredibly hardworking, but they can also tend to be spoiled, okay? Or it can be more so one than the other, depending on the circumstances, right? Let's say you have a child that's just born into achievement. They become a child actor and very successful without having to do much at all to earn it. That's an example, okay? But on the other side, the flip side of that, you can have someone that worked incredibly hard to break certain cycles and break out of a poverty childhood, right? To earn what they have, to earn the abundance that they now possess. Okay, so that's why I say it has a very wide scope. Because keep in mind here, for Life Path 8, the focus is justice, balance, achievement, and creation. Okay, now in addition to that, Life Path 8s can be incredibly abundant and incredibly generous. But they may also have a tendency to be tight-fisted, right? Or a little bit selfish with their earnings or selfish with their abundance, right? And it can simply come from a mindset of, I had to work hard for this, right? Or this actually flowed to me easily, so why don't you do that for yourself, right? It's not necessarily a malicious act. It's simply what it is, right? Life Path 8s can also be incredibly creative, right? Hence the realm of creation. But there can also be a tendency to be a little bit uninspired and jaded, right? Because of the nature of their wisdom, oftentimes, because of the nature of the ancient energies they're tapped into heavily, right? We are all tapped into it, but with 8s, it goes deep, okay? These can be incredibly old souls, and these can be beings that are just wise beyond their years from a very, very young age, or just endure adult-like experiences, right? That is the nature of 8. 8s can tend to be incredibly balanced, but they can also be easily triggered at times, especially one that hasn't done inner work, okay? Things tend to flow to them easily, but because of this, there can also be a tendency to be repetitious or stagnant a little bit, right? Set in their ways, okay? A little bit boring maybe at times. Not always. They can also be incredibly adventurous. There's a light and dark aspect to all of it, right? To all traits. And it is important, you guys. Inner work is so important for 8s because of the nature of it. All of the deep stuff I described at the beginning of this video, right? There are various things that can bring you into this life path, okay, that are very deep spiritually. So the more you want to make the best of this energy, you can do inner work to help support that endeavor. Because 8s, you have been given a great gift, and that gift is being born into a very fertile ground of creation, okay, of renewal. This is a basis of renewal. You are meant to be breakers of cycles. You are meant to be the establishers and the builders and the creators of generational wealth for your bloodlines, okay? 8 is the number of the bloodline, okay? This is the number of your ancestors, okay? So this is the creation and creating a better circumstance for your future descendants, okay? Now, it's important because when you're talking about an 8, this also tends to be a person that can't seem to get away with as much. And that's because there is a heavy hand of justice laid upon you in your life. Okay, just keep that in mind and use that as a reason to move better, to strengthen your MO as a person, right? To treat others well, to do the right thing, to move with integrity. Now, when it comes to really wanting to help the spirit ascend, that is the nature of all of this. I talk about this in my book, okay? The nature of the spirit having certain champions planted on this planet, okay? It's because you have the strength and the ability and the wherewithal and the wisdom and the insight to help the spirit ascend. How do you do that? By changing your MO. Okay, because our MO is directly correlated with the spirit we are led by. Okay, and the spirit typically moves in a way that's a little bit shady, a little bit sovereign, a little bit selfish or lacking of empathy, right? These are sovereign beings, gods and goddesses, a lot of them, not all of them, but they are sovereign beings who tend to move how they want to move. And there isn't always a lot of consideration for how it impacts humanity. So if you want to change that, lean into the opposite action. Because as a being who has been blessed with a direct channel to the realm of creation, this is where these beings exist. Okay, so keep that in mind. So when you are behaving in life, just pay attention, take accountability, right? Be mindful, be empathetic, right? And the rest will often work itself out. Okay, that's how you burn away negative karma for these beings. Okay, so alter your MO. Consider and assess the opposite as well. When you are enduring something difficult, traumatic, karmic, think about the opposite, and that can give you direct insight typically into the nature of the myth, okay, of the spirit you're being led by, okay, or perhaps insight into past life experiences, okay. Always be mindful of that. Oh, okay, maybe I'm experiencing this because I did this, so on and so forth previously. And if you're someone that doesn't believe in past lives, reincarnation, and spirituality to this extent, you can go ahead and keep scrolling because this is not going to resonate with you. Okay, but if you're open to expanding your fourth eye, as I call it, because that is the number of insight, right, and divine guidance, keep watching. All right, so that is how you're going to assess things and grow. Be more mindful. Take accountability. And continue to work through the remnants of lower frequencies that you carry. Because let's say you are a life path 8 and started off in a poverty situation as a child, but now you have great wealth. There are still going to be remnants of that, meaning your mindset may still be geared towards scarcity, right? Fear of losing what you've gained. Okay, try to work through that. Okay, try to tap in more so into the mindset of abundance because that is where you now exist. So embrace it. Because remember, when we're talking about 18 energy, right, a being navigating the realm of 8 to gain greater resonance of 9, we're talking about being able to break cycles, break negative patterns, initiate new beginnings. But you need to also be mindful in your relationships and your connections, because if you're not able to take accountability and truly renew yourself and release negative remnants and do inner work, you may find yourself losing good people, okay? That is also the nature of 9, right? And it may not be intended, but it may happen on the flip side of that. Because of the nature of this energy, because of the strong tie it holds to past life energies, do not be discouraged if people leave you. Because oftentimes what that represents is the breaking of a negative connection that needed to go. And maybe you couldn't let go of before in previous lifetimes. Now is the time. So walk with balance, my darling. Be abundant and be free. Have a great day.